The sewn bindings can be divided into two very broad areas, two basic traditions, one in the East that started in China and one in the West that started in Europe. Our books are all done in the Western tradition. That's the style of our books, and they all have stitching, the hardcover books we see, but you don't see the stitching. If you look at this book, this Chinese book, you'll see that there is the stitching is along the outside of the book. And the reason for that is the way the book is constructed. The pages are all, whereas we tend we take a stack of pages and fold them together and sew them along the fold. Here we have individual pages that are folded and sewn along the open side. Now the reason for this traces back to the earliest, to paper making. Paper was made very early in China, and the paper they made was very thin. The writing they were doing with a brush and with ink, and so the writing would bleed through the paper. So rather than they couldn't write on both sides, this way the paper would be laid out, the writing would be done on one side, on the whole thing, then folded, then sewn. Now this is not a handwritten book. I have one to show you afterwards. This is a book this has been printed by a machine, but I like it because it is laid out and it looks like the woodcut prints that were made. So in the beginning of the printing process, the first ones was a wood block that the entire page would be carved in, and that would be used for printing. Now movable type was invented. We always think about Gutenberg inventing movable type. Movable type was invented much earlier in China, but it was a little less useful because there were so many characters, whereas it made so much sense with the 26 letters of the Roman alphabet. With that many characters, it took a while to make the transition from a woodblock print to movable type. This other book I have to show you, this is a book from Japan. It's got absolutely gorgeous writing inside. This was the text that somebody was using to learn the lines for a No drama. One of the things that I find interesting about it was right here along the thing, and this is fairly common, this is the title of the book and this is the page number. This was actually one of a set of three. Oftentimes this style of book, each chapter, each section would be sewn together separately, and the whole stack of them would be the complete book. And the last thing I have to show is a book from, this is one page from a book showing the European tradition. This comes from Spain from about 1600. This is made from vellum, which is calf skin, so the books in the Middle Ages and beyond. By this point there were some books of paper, but also books still being made the old, kind of more old-fashioned way out of animal skin, so it's treated animal skin. This book was used in a monastery for chanting, for singing songs. So the square things that are here, these are the notes and these are the words. So if you think about it, so one big book would be made and everybody could sing from that same book. If you look at it, this side is very light, this side is a little bit darker, and this was the side that had the hairs on it, so that would be scraped off, and this would have been the inside of the animal. So I hope you enjoy this little tour of my collection. The sewn bindings can be divided into two very broad areas, two basic traditions, one in the East that started in China and one in the West that started in Europe. Our books are all done in the Western tradition. That's the style of our books, and they all have stitching, the hardcover books we see, but you don't see the stitching in books from around the world, and that you have fun making books of your own.